All right, so you already know Insta360, the company that made 360 cameras so good that even GoPro had to pay attention. Now, they built a drone, and not just any drone, the world's first panoramic drone sold as a complete consumer product. I spent a full month flying it, testing it, pushing it, and trying to understand something that took me longer than expected to put into words. This drone does not compete with DJI. It does something more interesting than that. It changes the way you think about flying entirely. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what I mean. Because there is a moment, and every person who flies this drone has it, where something clicks. Where you stop thinking about the camera and just fly. I want to get you to that moment without you having to spend the money to find it yourself. Let us start from the beginning. Before anything else, I need to explain what panoramic actually means here. Because this is not a wide-angle lens. This is not a fisheye filter. This is something genuinely different. The Antigravity A1 uses two fisheye lenses pointing in opposite directions. One forward, one backward. Together, they capture the full sphere around the drone. Every direction, simultaneously. What that means practically is this. When you are flying, you do not worry about where the camera is pointing. You do not plan composition. You do not redo a flight because the framing was wrong. You just fly, and after you land, you sit down and decide what the shot looks like. You reframe in post, you choose the angle, the movement, the field of view, all after the fact. That is not an incremental upgrade over a standard drone camera. That is a completely different creative workflow. Think about every time you have flown a drone and missed a shot because the camera was pointing slightly wrong, or had to repeat the same flight line 3 times to get the angle right, or landed frustrated because the moment passed before you could reframe. The Antigravity A1 makes all of that irrelevant. One flight, every angle, decide later. Now let me show you what that actually looks like in practice across every aspect of this drone. I want to be honest with you about my expectations going in. First generation drone, new company entering a space dominated by DJI, 250 to 300 gram class. I expected to be politely unimpressed. I was wrong. A normal mode hits 12 meters per second horizontal and 6 meters per second vertical. Sport mode pushes that to 16 meters per second horizontal and 8 vertical. That surpasses every aerial photography drone in the 300 gram class, except the Mini 5 Pro. But top speed is not the impressive part. Acceleration and deceleration are. Sport mode braking from 13 meters per second. The stopping distance is only slightly longer than the Mini 5 Pro. And in full acceleration, the A1 tilts at a larger angle and pushes harder than the Mini 5 Pro does. Why? Because there is no mechanical gimbal to protect. The A1 stabilizes entirely through gyro data. No gimbal means no protection logic softening the inputs. The result is a flight feel that is more responsive, more direct, more connected to your stick movements than you expect from a drone this size. Like, it feels alive in a way that surprised me. 2 limitations are worth knowing before you buy. Are near the ground and below about 3 meters, the drone enforces a speed cap even in sport mode. You will hit a ceiling of around 13 meters per second at low altitude. The documentation does not explain this. It is frustrating for testing, but it does reduce low altitude crash risk, and there is no obstacle avoidance bypass. When the sensors detect something ahead, the drone slows down and stops. It does not route around obstacles the way DJI drones do. For simple flying, this is fine. For complex environments, be aware. Range tested at approximately 8,000 meters at 115 meters altitude. Better than the O3 Mini 3 Pro and O4 Mini 4 Pro. Short of the O4 Plus Mini 5 Pro, which reaches around 10 kilometers, solid for a first generation drone. But here is what matters more than any of those numbers, because the A1 is panoramic. You do not need to fly the same line multiple times to get different shots. One battery, one flight path, infinite creative angles in post. That changes how you think about range entirely. The long endurance battery gives close to 30 minutes of real flight time. That sits between the Mini 5 Pro's short battery at 22 minutes and long battery at 35 minutes. Right in the middle. But here's the thing about battery life on a panoramic drone that most people miss. 30 minutes is enough to thoroughly shoot an entire location because you are not flying the same line repeatedly to get different angles. You fly once, you move to a new position, you fly again. One clip becomes multiple shots in post. The math on flight time changes when you fly this way. The charging hub has a screen showing precise battery levels, genuinely useful in the field. Maximum charging spec is 15 volts at 4 amps, which is slightly behind the Mini 5 Pro's charging hub. Not a deal breaker, but worth noting. One feature I genuinely liked, touching the battery tail shows remaining charge instantly without powering anything on. Small detail. Saves time every single session. One thing that is missing, that the A1 does not automatically power on when you unfold it the way DJI drones do. Manual power on every time. Minor friction, but it adds up over a full day of shooting. Maximum recording spec is 8K at 30 frames per second. And before you get too excited about that number, let me give you the honest context. 8K sounds like overkill. For a panoramic drone, it is actually necessary. When you reframe a 360-degree capture down to a standard wide-angle view, you are cropping significantly. Starting at 8K means the reframed output still looks sharp at 4K. If you started at 4K, the reframed output would be noticeably soft, so 8K is not a flex here. It is a requirement. The color profile is standard only, no HLG, no log. That is a real limitation for creators who grade heavily. And if you shoot HDR content, you will need an additional color grading step, and there is some risk of color banding in challenging lighting situations. For daylight footage and even early evening shots, the image quality is genuinely impressive. Sharp, clean, usable for professional internet video. Night performance is where it struggles. The 1/1.28-inch sensor with an f2.2 aperture combined with the optical characteristics of fisheye lenses means light intake is limited. Large city night scenes will lag noticeably behind traditional drones at similar price points. Even compared to the Mini 4 Pro with a similar sensor size, the panoramic system requires more cropping and electronic stabilization, and that shows in low lights. But here is the honest trade-off. In daylight, this drone captures shots that are physically impossible on any traditional drone. Dramatic perspective, zooms with distortion, rapid head-on whip movements. No angles that would require multiple drones and perfect timing on a conventional system. When you can get shots no other drone can capture, the question of whether the image quality is perfect becomes secondary. One genuine surprise, the stitching lines are almost invisible in landscape footage. In the live feed, you can see stitching shift during large movements. But in the final exported file, landscape scenes rarely show any visible seam. Yet the exception is when a person falls exactly on a stitching boundary, and in that case, the seam can appear, worth keeping in mind for tracking shots. The A1 has preset trajectory intelligent modes, and similar in concept to DJI's quick shots, Orbit Droney, and others, but here is something that took me a while to fully understand. On a panoramic drone, intelligent flight modes matter less than you think. On a traditional drone, getting a smooth orbit or a perfect droney requires precise stick inputs or a good automated mode. The camera captures exactly what it is pointed at. You need the machine to be precise. On the A1, even if the orbit is not perfectly round, even if the trajectory has small imperfections, it does not matter, because you decide in post what the camera was looking at. The flight path creates movement. The reframing creates the shot. This changes your entire relationship with intelligent modes. The one intelligent feature I genuinely love is waypoint planning. Set a route, the drone flies it, and it automatically starts recording when the route begins. No forgetting to hit record, no missed shots because you were managing the controller instead of watching the flight. parents, friends, people who have never flown a drone, they can load a waypoint route, put on the goggles, and experience real aerial footage without any flying skill. Now, that accessibility is something DJI's waypoint system does not match as elegantly. The A1 also has onboard tracking, cry and follow in orbit after selecting a target. In practice, the post-production tracking inside Insta360's editing software is more useful for most shots, but for real-time follow scenarios it works. The A1 supports forward and downward obstacle sensing, and the sensing accuracy is actually impressive. Because it uses a wide-angle binocular system rather than single camera sensing, depth accuracy is noticeably higher than many single sensor systems. The stopping distance is conservative. The drone stops further from obstacles than most DJI drones with obstacle avoidance, unless the obstacle is a wire or a very thin branch. The A1 is genuinely difficult to crash. The warning display in the goggles shows obstacle direction near the crosshair, slightly more intuitive than DJI's circular indicator layout. 2 honest limitations. First, the minimum light level required for obstacle sensing is quite high. At dusk, in conditions where the camera can still shoot usable footage, obstacle sensing had already stopped working in my tests. DJI drones like the Mini 5 Pro and Air 3S support night sensing. The A1 does not. If you fly in low light, fly carefully. Second, no bypass navigation. The drone stops when it detects obstacles, it does not route around them, and because of this, the return to home uses traditional 3-stage RTH rather than DJI's advanced path planning system. When signal is lost, it flies to the last signal location first. If signal does not recover it, then performs standard 3-stage return. The practical result: the A1 reserves battery at 30% for return. With that orange warning at 30% effectively reduces your practical flight time. Take off from open areas when you plan to rely on automatic return. This is where the A1 is most different from anything in DJI's lineup. The A1 can currently only be operated using the Vision FPV goggles combined with a motion controller. No traditional remote with a screen, no RC2 equivalent. For travel scenarios and casual flying, this is genuinely less convenient than a traditional controller. Putting on goggles, waiting for them to boot, managing an external battery pack, it is more setup than most people expect from a compact drone, but once you are in the air, everything changes. The goggles interface is smooth in a way that honestly embarrassed me when I thought about how laggy the RC2 has become with recent updates. A floating interface window appears with 3 degrees of freedom fixed relative to the environment. The motion controller acts like a laser pointer. Our trigger clicks like a mouse, like scrolling menus feels like a smartphone. The whole system is intuitive within minutes. Resolution is 1600 by 1600, significantly higher than RC2's 720p and Goggles 3's 1080p. No frame drops. During screen recording, the A1 has 2 flight control modes: standard FPV mode, rotating your wrist controls yaw, direct and intuitive for people with FPV experience. Free motion mode, flight direction corresponds to a marker in the display. Body and head movement control where you go. More natural for complete beginners, less efficient for experienced pilots who want precise control during filming. Personally, I prefer FPV mode for filming. Free motion requires combining body rotation and head movement simultaneously, which gets complicated during complex maneuvers. The motion controller button layout is well designed. Different tactile textures on each button mean you can operate by feel after 2 flights. While left-handed users will find it slightly awkward, not unusable, but not optimized. One annoyance, the external goggle battery design. The external pack reduces head weight, which is a smart call, but the short power cable makes it less elegant in practice, and the goggles cannot be powered via USB-C directly. Without the included battery, the goggles will not power on at all. No charging while flying, no connecting to a computer without the battery. A power switch directly on the goggles would solve most of this. Hopefully a future update. The A1 uses OmniLink 360, a panoramic video transmission system. Because transmission is panoramic, the area you are currently looking at appears in high resolution. Areas outside your current viewing direction appear in lower resolution. Quickly turning your head can briefly reveal lower resolution zones. During long-distance flight, transmission resolution drops noticeably. I keep facing the drone and avoid flying very far to maintain quality. Near the ground at higher speeds, rapid movement creates a visual impression of dropped frames due to the 30 frame rate and constantly shifting stitching lines. This is a live feed artifact. The recorded footage does not have this problem. One workflow note, the 20 gigabyte internal storage can only be accessed when the drone is powered on. If the drone is powered off, you need to remove the SD card to access footage. DJI's 04 transmission drones allow data transfer when powered off but connected to power. This is a quality of life gap that Insta360 should address in future firmware. Antigravity Studio is where a lot of the magic happens, and it is genuinely good. Video export is fast. Reframing previews are smooth. Keyframe effects apply fluidly. The software team clearly spent serious time on this. Practical features include one-click ND filter simulation, dehaze, color enhancement, and telemetry overlays. The built-in quick preview lets you scrub through footage fast without rendering. Keyframes you create save with the video file so you can reopen and continue editing exactly where you left off. For mobile editing, connect directly to the drone, transfer footage quickly, apply built-in templates, and get a finished video fast. Ideal for travel content and social posts. One current limitation that I hope gets addressed when using tracking in the software, and thus the viewing angle cannot be changed while tracking is active. It forces certain parameters into a fixed range. Ideally, tracking would allow keyframe motion overlays, treating the tracking path as a base vector you can add motion on top of. That would unlock the kind of dynamic perspective changes that currently require carefully placed manual keyframes. But overall, the software level is impressive for a first-generation product. Easy enough to learn quickly, powerful enough for serious work. Let me be direct about who this drone is and is not for. If you need the best image quality, if you shoot at night regularly, if you rely on log color profiles for professional grading, if you want bypass obstacle avoidance for complex environments, if you prefer a traditional controller over FPV goggles, the Antigravity A1 is not your drone right now. DJI serves those needs better, but if you are a creator who shoots in good light, and if you want footage that looks different from everything else, if you are tired of repeating the same flight line to get the right angle, if you want to experience flying as pure movement without thinking about the camera, the Antigravity A1 is one of the most genuinely new things to happen to consumer drones in years. And here is what I keep coming back to after a full month with it. There is a moment every person who flies this drone has. You stop thinking about the camera, you stop planning compositions, you just fly. And then you sit down at the editing software and you find shots you did not know you took. That feeling is hard to put a spec number on, but it is real, and it is something no DJI drone currently gives you. Insta360 built something genuinely new here. Not better than DJI across the board, not trying to be, but different in a way that matters. Right, and in a drone market that can sometimes feel like the same product with incrementally better numbers every year, different is worth paying attention to. Drop in the comments, does the panoramic concept excite you, or does the idea of reframing in post feel like too much extra work? I genuinely want to know where you stand on this, and subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next.